It's not this big thing that everyone's like, "Whoa, a bolt of lightning came, hit me in the head." That's why you don't know what happened. It's very quiet and very simple and very filled with love. I mean, you know how when you hear people who have been on an operating table and say that they left and came back? It feels like that, but I just didn't leave. I was just sitting there finishing dinner at a restaurant in Monrovia. And the thing is, I guess it can happen anytime because it sure did. And that night I was scared to go home because I walked in my house and I'm like, okay, don't do anything now. I'm alone. I don't want to see you. I'll have a heart attack and die. No one will even know or find me. But truly and seriously, it's very quiet and strong at the same time. It's strength without being too strong. And it's the energy that we have every day when we're in our best of mind, when we're in our higher self, when we know we can do what we want to do and we know that we're going to, and we don't have those blockers saying, you know what, there's no way, there's how. It's more how. But hearing that, it's become, I feel like sometimes my head, when you walk in a movie theater and there's 10 movies going on at once, sometimes I feel like that's my head, but yet it's never interfered with my life or taken away. I wrote this book with the kids, with Sterling. He was in the hospital 5 times over 3 years, getting his hips replaced and changed and whatever. And I was so tired. I was like stopping at green lights and doing silly things. But at the same time, it always lifted every moment, even the hard moments. It just lifted them and made me realize everything is doable. And it also made me think, how do people do that without this? Because there were times I was really angry and I was planning to do something else, and then I turned it around and said, no, that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to approach it the complete opposite of what I actually thought, and the opposite was actually the better answer. No, the first one I heard was a woman, was asthma. Which I found out, by the way, which was weird. People have written about this before. So then it like validated what I knew. I searched like a nut. I went to Borders and pulled out books of local authors and called them and went and met with them. Just so somebody would tell me what was going on. This was the very beginning. Because there was no way I was fessing up to this. My first plan A was to write everything and someone find it after I die and print it. That was plan A. But it turns out I come with it. So here I am. Here's the book. But it's everybody. It's just we can't see certain things because some of us can't see it yet or aren't meant to or will. I don't think it is. I never had to sit long enough for this to happen because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
But it happens while I'm doing everything. But I think the truth of it is that life is just life. It isn't just Sunday for a couple of hours. It isn't a Friday or a Saturday. I mean, life is every day. There isn't like a cleanup day for messing up. Oh, it's just like just live your best life every day, and we all know what that is. It's just not taking the time to actually pay attention to it, thinking it's going to take us too much time to do what's best for us rather than what isn't. It's easier to just eat a hamburger from McDonald's instead of go home and make a salad, and stuff like that. But it actually is easier to go home and make the salad. And then you have no leftover residue that you have to take care of a few years from now or something like that. This is just paying attention and living in the moment. If it happened to me, I figure it could happen to anyone because I was the least likely suspect, the least expecting of anyone, and it's still hard for me to talk about, but I do because it's just like so cool. It's one of the best things that I could ever tell anyone. It doesn't classify you as anything. God isn't a religion. Because if he did, that breaks all of our theories that God is one. So he can't be a religion. And this proves it. I mean, this did not make my mom happy. I called my mom and told her about this. My mom wears a scarf, goes to the mosque every Friday, wants me to do the same thing, which I couldn't. Obviously, after the marriage thing, I was like, okay, we could stop there. But when I called her 2 weeks after this happened to me, and I told her about it. And she started crying on the phone, and he started talking to her too. I mean, he talks to people through me. A lot of times I don't tell them because it's too much to say, oh, by the way, Christ actually said that. I mean, what am I going to do? But he was talking to my mom about letting something go, and it was something she had never told me. But when she was 9 years old and she lived in the West Bank of Jordan, which is on the other side of where you're from, her sister had whooping cough, and my grandmother made my mom take care of her, and my mom dropped her, and when my mom dropped her, she'd passed away. And so my mom was carrying all this time that she killed her sister. She was 9 years old, so to her, and it was never talked about after that. They buried the girl and they did everything. And I didn't even, and he was telling her, go back to that, because he was telling her the ripple effect of just how she carried that the rest of her life, how it affected her actions. She was crying on the phone, and she's like, oh my God, this really is it, because she knew she never told anybody, because she was so mortified that this even happened to her. As that happened, 2 weeks later, she calls me and she says, does that still happen to you? And I go, why? And she's like, I went to the mosque and I asked them about you and about this happening to people, and they said, you know what, this happens, but really it's the devil, it's not the angels. And I go, really? And I go, Mom, I don't think so, because nothing bad has come of this. I feel better than I've ever felt, other than the fact that I don't want to tell anyone, and now I'm kind of sorry I told you.
Yeah.
And she said, but why did Christ come to you? Why didn't the Prophet Muhammad come to you? And are you Christian now? And whatever. And I'm like, Mom, this is so much bigger than that. I said, I don't even know if I can conceive what this actually means to my life right now. I actually told you because I didn't want this to happen to one of your kids and you not to know. For you just not to know. There's a reason for this. I don't know it yet, but there's a reason for this. And she said to me, I believe you, but I'm too old to change. Which is as honest as she could have been. And I wasn't even asking her to change. It's like when I tell people they think I'm going to try to change something, I'm like, no, I'm just telling you. You can do with it whatever you want. I don't know what to do with it sometimes. So you can figure it out too. But if I'm telling you, there's a reason. There's a reason. Because I realized that everyone who's met me or read this or whatever, their lives get so cool. And they go write me 2 years later, like I'm so subtle and disarming, like I don't look like that big of a deal. But then after a while, people will call and say, when I met you and you said whatever, or I thought this when you said something, and then look what happened. And they have like this business now, or they changed careers, or they did. I'm like, wow. It's like love does propel, and truth does grow, and believing in yourself does change things. It's not just saying, oh, today I'm going to believe in myself, and then the next day you tear yourself down. That doesn't work. Trusting that they can come to you.
That's it?
Just saying, I trust that what I'm doing, and really learning to trust yourself. I was forced to learn to really trust myself. It would have been easier for me to go back and say, okay, I'm sorry, and give me back the money, and give me back this, and give me back that. I'll be happy now. I could have done that. It never occurred to me to do it, but I could have. Mm-hmm. I just thought, okay, this is what my life is like now. I got hit by a car in Beverly Hills on Clark and Wilshire in 1999, and I couldn't walk right away, and I was limping for a while, and whatever happened to me at that time. And I called my clients and said, I'll see you in 3 days. I can't make my appointments today. And I really thought I was going to get up and walk in 3 days. And then I came to this realization and said, wow, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair, I'll just be one of those people in a wheelchair. Like I just accepted for some reason. And then I just pushed myself to walk because, I wanted to be able to walk. And I limped for about a year. And then I just kept going, and now I walk. And no one would ever know. And I could have gone the other route. I had an attorney come to me and said, the person who hit me left the scene after she realized I was okay. And he said, you could sue your own insurance company. And I said, no, I don't want this to be my life. I'll be over this in a few months. Mm-hmm. And I just kept going. And there were many times I could have detoured. And I decided, no, I don't want that to be me. And that happened to me in dating too. Once I realized I had a choice, and I'd meet people, and if I got serious, I said, do I want that to be my life? And I finally started realizing I could also ask questions instead of everyone just asking them of me.